you ever feel the silence change when you speak? Not the normal kind, not shyness, something else, something colder, like static in the soul, like you just dropped a truth that split the air like a knife. You say something real, and suddenly the room forgets how to breathe. Eyes shift, spines stiffen. They don't argue, they just vanish. Why? Because the deeper your thoughts go, the more you become a walking threat. Not loud, not violent, just undeniable. See, your mind became a mirror. And most people? They've spent their whole life building lies so carefully, they can't stand to see them crack. You didn't insult them. You didn't even mean to challenge them. You just were. And that was enough. Enough to trigger their defense systems. Because you reminded them they're living small. You reminded them of the truth they buried when they were 16 and gave up their curiosity for comfort. You're dangerous, not because you'll hurt them, but because you see them. And nothing terrifies the average mind more than a gaze that sees too deep. You ever notice that? The smarter you get, the lonelier the air gets around you. Not because you're wrong, but because you're right, too soon. If this hit somewhere quiet inside you, Darkside Demeanor, don't just watch, join the rebellion. They say they love intelligence. Bullshit. Society doesn't fear dumb. It manufactures it. It feeds you scrolls, clicks, dopamine loops. It pays influencers to talk fast and say nothing. But the moment you speak in layers, the moment your thoughts move like shadows under the surface, now you're a problem. Because intelligence isn't just facts and books. It's X-ray vision for the soul, and people don't want to be seen. They want to be agreed with. They want echo chambers, not depth charges. You ever see someone flinch at a question like, "Why do you really want success?" Boom. That's the fear. Right there. Because deep down, they know it's not for them. It's for approval, for status, for a father's attention they never got. But you're built different. You don't chase what shines. You chase what's real, even when it burns your palms. That's why you're here. That's why you feel exiled in your own damn species. Society's lie is layered like armor. Be smart, but not too honest. Be curious, but don't question the system. Think outside the box, but never leave it. And the second you do, the second you step off script, they come for you with smiles, with silence, with "You've changed." Nah, you woke up. They want digestible. You're not. You're the bitter taste that reminds them they're still asleep. Truth. It ain't welcomed. It's tolerated. Until it hits too close. Then it's rejected like a virus. Because truth does one thing the ego can't survive. It strips the illusion. It exposes the man pretending to be a king, the girl pretending to be healed, the system pretending to serve. And here's the mind trip. You're not even trying to attack. You're trying to connect. But deep thinking feels like violence to someone who's built their life on surface. You've been weaponized without ever raising your voice. That's why they laugh when you speak real. Not because you're wrong, but because they need to mock it before it sinks in. You speak truth, they smirk. You speak deeper truth, they turn. They gaslight, they dodge, they deflect. Because ego is a cracked mirror. It reflects nothing back clean. And when truth enters that space, it doesn't bounce, it shatters. You're not fighting people. You're fighting the systems they've welded to their identity. So here's your choice. Shrink for comfort, or grow into your exile. But know this, the world never gave truth a crown. It gave it chains. And if that makes you want to speak quieter, don't. It means you're finally saying something worth fearing. Schopenhauer didn't say intelligence is a gift. He said it's a trap, a razor in silk. beautiful, until you bleed. Not poetic, not noble, just cold. Truth carved into bone. The smarter you get, the lonelier the path. That's the tax. See too much, and you lose the luxury of pretending. You watch people laugh at illusions you've already buried. You sit at tables where every word feels like theater, and all you want is something real. But reality don't sell. Illusions do. And that's the curse no one warns you about. Not that you'll be hated, not that you'll be praised, but that you'll be alone. Even in a crowd, it starts small. You start noticing the patterns, the tone behind the tone, the motive behind the smile. You start catching the lies people tell themselves just to get through the day. They chase pleasure. You chase the why. They ask what's next. You ask what's the point. You're not trying to be deep. You just can't turn it off. There's this itch in your skull, like some quiet algorithm in your brain refuses to let anything slide. Every answer makes 3 more questions bloom like black roses. And now your comfort's gone. Your bliss? Shattered. You used to laugh with them. Now you see the punchline was a sedative. That's what happens when the light in your mind gets too bright. It burns through the curtains. It exposes the gears. It shows you the rigged machine we're all spinning inside. And that's where the Stoic shift begins. Not in temples, not in books. It begins the moment you stop begging for peace and start making war with your comfort. See, most people, they live in a trance, a soft autopilot, their entire personality outsourced to trends, trauma, or what their high school friends think of them. And when life cracks, they reach for distractions. You let it crack. You listen to the silence leaking out of that fracture. You don't run. You study the collapse. That's what Stoicism really is. Not calmness, not detachment. It's staring pain in the face and not blinking. It's building a throne out of the rubble of your illusions. Marcus Aurelius ran an empire, but he wrote his deepest thoughts in private, as reminders, to not let the power infect his mind, to not lose his soul to the noise. That's what you're doing now. You're reminding yourself that the ache you feel, the weight in your chest when everything feels fake, isn't weakness. It's awareness. It's your mind rejecting anesthesia. They call it overthinking. I call it depth denied, because the brain doesn't want meaning. It wants patterns, repetition, safety, even if it kills the spirit. But you've tasted something else. You've seen the threads behind the curtain, and now, nothing shallow will ever satisfy again. So what now? You build. Alone, maybe, but aligned. You let the silence teach you. You let solitude forge you. You stop trying to explain your thoughts to those who've never questioned theirs. And you walk forward with fire in your lungs, not looking for applause, but for peace earned through war. Welcome to the cold flame, brother. Burn slow, burn true, a mirror with blood on it. You ever say something real, and the room flinches? Not because you yelled, not because you cursed, but because truth landed, sharp, silent, surgical. You drop a line like, "What if success is just a distraction from our fear of dying unnoticed?" Boom. Now watch. The vibe shifts. Laughter stiffens. They sip their drink like it's a shield. And someone, always someone, jokes, "Damn bro, you're thinking too much." That's code. That's fear, disguised as casual. See, you didn't offend them. You exposed them. You cracked their mask. And for a split second, they saw themselves. Not the version they curate, not the filtered feed, the raw one, the scared one, the one they've been ignoring since childhood. And that's why they switched the topic. Not because you were wrong, because you were right, and they weren't ready. Let's be clear. You're not arrogant. You're not dark. You're not too intense. You're a mirror, and not the smooth kind. You're the kind that reflects the parts they buried, the childhood wounds they never unpacked, the quiet desperation behind their ambition, the truth behind their relationship, job, faith, self. And mirrors like that, they don't get applause. They get rejection. Because people will forgive cruelty. They'll even embrace a liar, as long as the lie feels warm. But disrupt their self-image, challenge the core narrative they've built their entire identity on. Now you're an enemy, not with a weapon, but with a sentence. That's the slap. It doesn't leave bruises on skin. It leaves tremors in the psyche. It's why whistleblowers get silenced, why mystics get exiled, why honest men get ghosted in shallow circles. 'Cause most of society is built like a house of cards, and you showed up breathing like wind. You're not better, but you're dangerous, because you don't need validation to speak. You speak because it's true. That's the weapon, not anger, not ego, but truth without permission. You ever wonder why everyone says they want real conversations, but every time you try, they tap out? Here's the secret. They crave depth, the way addicts crave clarity. They want it, until it starts detoxing the fantasy. And when that starts, they'll call you negative, call you cold, call you broken, because you're not worshiping what they do. Comfort, performance, repetition. But let me tell you something, brother. You are broken. That's why you see the cracks. And that's not a flaw. That's the upgrade. Because once you've tasted what's real, you can never go back to soft lies. Not without bleeding internally. So now you've got a choice. Shrink your mind to fit the room, or leave the room and build your own damn cathedral. Because here's the paradox. The deeper you think, the more disruptive you become. And the world doesn't reject you for being wrong. It rejects you for being right too early. The curse of clarity. Let's stop pretending. You know the truth I'm talking about. The one you've carried since you were a kid. The one that shows up in your silence. Not in your words, but in the way your eyes go dim at parties. In the way your soul twitches every time you laugh at something stupid just to fit in. You know. You've always known. You just buried it deep enough to function. But it's still there, gnawing, scratching behind your ribs like a caged animal. So I'll ask once, what's the one truth you've always known, but we're too scared to say out loud? Not to them, to yourself. Say it, write it, or keep running from it like you always have. Because truth, real truth, doesn't wait. It festers. It'll haunt your success. It'll whisper in the middle of applause. It'll rot your dreams from the inside out if you don't face it. So what is it? That love never meant loyalty? That your father never saw you? That you're not afraid of failure? You're afraid of being seen? Look deeper. You're not lost. You're avoiding. And now, let's go down. You ever wonder why the world feels wrong, even when things are good? Why peace feels like a costume that never quite fits? It's not depression. It's not anxiety. It's clarity. A rare, violent clarity that breaks normal people. Because you see too much. Not with your eyes, with your instinct. You walk into a room, and before anyone speaks, you know. Who's fake? Who's performing? Who's smiling while their soul is rotting under 3 layers of ego? You were never taught that skill. You were born with it. The curse of perception. Some call it overthinking. Others call it sensitivity. But it's neither. It's awareness. So sharp it cuts through charm, small talk, and shallow ambition, like a scalpel through silk. You see why they chase status. You see the fear behind the grind. You see the emptiness dressed in designer, and it makes it hard to play along. You don't hate people. You just hate what they've become. Wired for fake, addicted to applause, performing themselves into oblivion. You crave the real, but the real is rare, and the world doesn't run on rare. So they ghost you, call you cold, say you're too much. Nah, you're just a depth charge in a shallow pool. You talk in layers. They listen in headlines. You move with silence. They chase noise. You seek substance. They worship the scroll. We live in a world of fast dopamine, short thoughts, long filters, where lies get retweets and truth gets buried under the algorithm. They've built altars to distraction, lit candles for comfort, said prayers to the gods of instant validation. And you showed up like a heretic. You didn't ask for worship. You just wanted connection. But connection means risk. It means looking someone in the soul and not looking away. And most people, they're not built for that. They're not scared of you. They're scared of what they see in themselves when you're near. Your presence is a test they can't pass, a question they don't want answered, a mirror they didn't ask for. So they run. Let them. Because this is your edge. You're not broken. You're tuned in. You're seeing the game for what it is. And now the real question. What do you do with that clarity? Let it rot you into silence, or build something from it. Because pain becomes power when you stop hiding it. When you name the ghost and walk with it. That's the path. Lonely, brutal, but honest. And that's rare enough to build a new world on. Say the truth. Write it below. Don't wait. If you're bold enough, drop it in the comments. If not, scroll away like everyone else. Let's kill the fairy tale. You weren't meant to fit in. You were meant to fracture the script. The world's blueprint was never written for men like you. It was made to flatten sharp edges, to blur clarity, to turn wolves into lapdogs with a paycheck and polite opinions. You saw too much, too early. And once you've seen, you can't unsee. That's not rebellion. That's recognition. You were built to move through illusions, not dance in them. You broke the trance, brother. And now they call you difficult, cold, disconnected, because your soul doesn't speak fluent bullshit. Here's the twist. You didn't choose exile. Exile chose you. Not as punishment, but initiation. That isolation you feel? That's not absence. That's depth expanding. It's the forge, where real identity is forged under pressure, not picked from a self-help shelf. See, most people confuse Stoicism with silence. They think it's apathy, dead eyes, neutral tones. Wrong. Stoicism is war inside the soul, won in private. It's looking at your darkest thought and saying, "You don't control me." It's choosing discipline over dopamine, principle over performance, purpose over pity. It's not that you feel less. You feel everything. But you respond instead of react. You lead the chaos instead of dancing for its approval. You've been taught to fear solitude. But solitude? That's the gym for the soul. That's where you get strong enough to stop explaining yourself to people still operating from trauma they've renamed as personality. Let them gossip. Let them misunderstand. Their opinion is not your oxygen. They think validation is love. You've learned validation is leverage. When you let go of being understood, you gain control. Because here's the deep secret, the one they won't print in any damn success guide. The most dangerous man in any room is the one who's no longer trying to be liked. That man can't be bought, can't be shamed, can't be manipulated by silence, by sex, by applause, by rejection. That man doesn't just walk alone, he walks ahead. And listen, you're not alone, you're unhooked. You've been pulled out of the stream of sameness, the loop of be nice, stay safe, die slowly. You don't belong to that anymore. You belong to the truth. And truth is cold, yes, but it frees you. Once you stop begging for belonging, you start building your own territory. You were never meant to be digestible. You were meant to be legend, quiet, relentless, rare. Let the world keep its cages. Let it crown the tame. You sharpen your silence. You rise in shadows. You walk like fire, unbothered, unseen, untouchable. And that's the weapon. You want their approval? Then here's your price. Your voice, muted. Your fire, dimmed. Your edge, sanded smooth until it no longer cuts. All so you can be digestible, marketable, forgettable. Every time you smile just to be liked, you kill a part of yourself, and the world claps, because now you're manageable. But that's not who you are. That's not who you were. You were never meant to be palatable. You were born to be the crack in the system, the glitch in the algorithm, the pulse in a room full of mannequins. Let them whisper. Let them talk behind your back. That means you're ahead. Let them misunderstand. That means you stopped translating your soul into their weak language. Let them vanish. If they needed the fake version of you to love you, they were already gone. You weren't born to be liked. You were born to see behind the eyes, behind the handshake, behind the brand, to catch the rust beneath the gold plating. And when you see like that, you become dangerous in silence. That's why they avoid you. That's why they call you intense. That's why they change the subject when you speak. Because you don't just talk, you reveal. You bring weight to rooms built for lightness. You bring meaning to conversations designed to distract. You bring truth where they only wanted noise. And that makes you unforgettable to the right people and unwelcome to the rest. So choose. Dilute yourself until you're safe, or stay sharp and watch the fake dissolve around you. But don't ever forget, there are others like you, quiet, watching, waiting for someone to speak the language of what's real. You just did. You've been watching Darkside Demeanor, not a channel, a whispered rebellion. If this cracked something open in you, you're one of us now. Click subscribe, join the brotherhood, burn the script, rewrite the soul, or scroll away. Back to noise, back to numb. But you'll feel the difference now. You'll hear the silence louder. Once you see the code, you don't unsee it. Tell me this. What's the lie you've lived inside for too long? Say it raw. Say it real. Say it now. If you're bold enough, write it. If not, click away like everyone else and pretend this never shook your soul. This isn't content. This is a signal. If you felt it, you've been waiting for this your whole life. Subscribe. We don't do surface here. Darkside Demeanor, where silence speaks louder than applause.